Any members or officers in physical attendance, if you've got an electronic device, could I ask you to mute it to avoid feedback? I better check that I've done my own. I think I have. Any remote participants, could you please keep your camera and microphone off unless you wish to speak, and ideally do not use your camera facility, as this can affect the quality of the meeting. The meeting may be recorded, and data collected during the recording of the meeting will be retained in accordance with the Council's data retention policy. The recording of the meeting may be added to the Council's website. Members accessing the meeting remotely should use their SBC or KCC laptops to participate virtually. If you do join us using the link on the website or on mobile or tablet device, it may not always be possible, and you may not be recorded as in remote attendance. Could I also remind members who are members of the committee that are in remote attendance that you are obviously fully entitled to take part in the meeting, ask any questions, but you will not be entitled to vote when it comes to the recommendations. Could I also ask you to speak loudly and clearly into the microphone and to switch the microphone off after speaking, otherwise remote participants may be unable to hear the next speaker. So welcome members, officers and members of the public to the Audit Committee meeting. The following staff are in attendance either in the chamber or remotely. The Director of Resources, Lisa Fillery, Head of Finance and Procurement, Lisa Stanbury. Claire Stanbury, sorry, oh my Lisa. Claire Stanbury, sorry Claire. We have a substitute in. Unfortunately, the Head of Audit Partnership, Catherine, can't be with us. She's had a rather nasty breakdown in her car on the way here today. So she's substituted by the Audit Planning Manager, Mark Goodwin. We've got the Audit Manager from Grant Thornton, Richmond Narco. Senior Audit Manager from Grant Thornton, Matt Dean, and Democratic Services, Billy Attaway. Are there any other officers online? I take it those members in the chamber and officers are aware of the fire procedure. Good. And I have to ask, is there anyone here that might need assistance? Yeah, but that's not physical assistance, is it, Councillor? Okay. Are there any apologies for absence, please, Billy?
Thank you, Chair. There is apologies for absence for Councillor Derek Carnell, who's substituted by Councillor Chris Palmer and Councillor Andy Booth.
Thank you very much. So I'll move on now to the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of July, minutes number 211 to 215. Is it your wish that I sign those as a correct record? Thank you, members. I'll do that in a moment. Okay, are there any declarations of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Okay, all good. All items on the agenda this evening are Part B reports for decision by the Audit Committee. So we'll move swiftly on to agenda item 5. So it's the annual financial report 2022-23 and audit findings report. Over to you, Claire.
Thank you, Chair. So this report brings forward the annual financial report for 22-23, and that includes the statement of accounts as well as the annual governance statement. Also then the external auditors report, and we have our external auditors online this evening, so they will talk about that momentarily. The letter of representation and as the annual governance statement is included within here as well. In terms of the statement of accounts and the audit, there were some drafting amendments made. They are highlighted or discussed within the audit findings report in section C from page 32 onwards. There were no significant changes made to the statement of accounts that was produced at the end of May and sent round to Audit Committee members. There were a few minor drafting changes that were made to clarify notes within the accounts. Section C does list the adjusted and unadjusted findings from the auditors, and also highlights that the unadjusted findings overall had no impact on the statement of accounts. At this point, I'm happy to hand over to Richmond and Matt for them to discuss the audit findings report.
Yes, thank you very much, Claire. Richmond, would you like to come in on this, or is it Matt first?
I'll come in first, Chair, if that's all right. So I'll do a brief intro and then pass on to Richmond. So, I mean, I think I'd like to echo everything that Claire's talked through there in terms of the set of the accounts and the quality of the output. It certainly has felt a good, strong set of accounts, and I know it has been somewhat challenging for the finance team in terms of their resourcing over recent weeks. So I'd like to thank them for all their help and support over what has been a tricky time. In terms of, I guess, kind of where we are, you know, Claire's kind of summarised it reasonably well there. So we've completed the vast majority of the field work itself, as is set out on page 3 of our report. We've identified nothing that changes the reported financial position. As Claire said, there's a few disclosure amendments and unadjusted misstatements which are in the report, and Richmond will go through those in detail. At this stage, we're just going through the final review process in order to bring our work to a close. So that'll be over the next week or so. We'll bring that to a close and be able to formally sign the opinion. That proposed opinion is unqualified on the basis of the work performed, which is again is a pleasing position. The value for money work has touched on there, I think, as has been the case in previous years, is being dealt with via a separate team within the firm. They are, I think, currently underway with their work. The aim for that is to have that with officers by the end of the calendar year. I suspect at this stage that will be at the next audit committee, which I think is in January, but that will be within the timeframe that we're allowed by the NAO for that work. So I think, yeah, as Claire said, it's a strong set of accounts. I think we've not, you know, a good engagement from all involved and a positive outcome. So that's all I wanted to say. I'll just pass on to Richmond to go for a little bit more of the detail.
Thanks, Matt. I wanted to say we assume that this paper is read by all members. One of the key highlights will be on page 23 of our report, where we've identified one action point. So this is incomplete accrual of income, where we identified a number of invoices raised after the financial year period, which were not accrued for. The other bit will be on page 26 of our report, where we identified 2 unadjusted misstatements, one around PPE, where we noted a difference of 1.1 million in reconciling our fixed asset register, the financial statements, and the valuation summary. And then we also noted another difference when we're reconciling our pension defined pension scheme balance. And so these are the bits that I want to add on to what has been said already. At this point, we're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Richmond. Members, any questions on the report? Rich.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Great. Bear with me just a second. I'm just pulling up the page 19 of the agenda, which is page 11 of the audit report. I think it's asset valuations. They've given us a rating, like there's an odd color scheme for the ratings, which are either dark purple, light purple, blue, or green. And they've given us a rating which it's got the word blue, but in the color light purple. So it's unclear to me as to what rating that. I'm guessing they've given us a blue rating, but because it's colored light purple, it's unclear. So it'd be good to have some clarity on that, please.
Yeah, that's good spot. That should be the blue rating as it is there in terms of the assessment. We'll adjust the colour in the final version of the report to ensure that's consistent. But yeah, that should be the blue that's there.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Lovely. Thank you, Rich. Right, if there's no more questions, so Councillor Worcester.
Thank you. My question goes very much similar to Councillor Lehman's question. That I just wanted to be sure that we have done. Is there anything else you could have done to make this document actually easier to read, especially for our residents? I know that it's already been stated that not many residents may be interested in looking at it, but as a new councillor, I can see that we've spent quite a lot of money with regards to this particular document. So the question still stands: is there anything that could be done between now and the final version of this report to make it clearer and easier to understand, especially around that rating, because those colours are very confusing, very, very similar in their tone and colouring, actually. It's very unusual. I would expect a document that is dealing with this amount of money and work that has gone into it, so well done officers and the company that's done it, to be as clear as possible, to make sure that if anybody else has any questions, members of the public, they can clearly pose those questions in future.
Matt?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. On the colouring itself, that is somewhat the firm's, I guess, branding, which I guess I would say, but we could certainly have a look at that. I know where you're coming from. It's not always the clearest, so we'll have a look at that and tidy that up in the final version. I think by its very nature, the report itself, it will always have an element of, I guess, specific language included because of what we have to report in terms of this is, I guess, a report that's defined by the standards. So there are various things we have to say in the report, and that does, I guess, drive the language that we use in certain areas. As a result, I think we always try and keep the report at an appropriate level, so it's kind of understandable for most people. There will always be elements that it's always really hard to try and get down into a level that I guess, for want of a better, the layman can understand, I guess. Because if there's any specifics, we can happy to sort of try and draw those out. But yeah, we're happy to do a sort of a full review as we finalise. If there's anything we can tweak to make it easier and more accessible, then we will do, and that's always the aim of our reporting. But it by its very nature will always have an element of, I guess, specific language and toning that we would expect for the nature of that report.
Lovely, thanks for that, Matt. Does that answer your question, Councillor Worcester?
It answers the question, but it doesn't, in essence, take care of the need that I'm actually talking about. I'm fully aware that this document needs to be used as a technical document, and it's a, quite a hefty amount. But I do feel that if you're going to use a colour coordinated approach to look at elements of the document, then that in itself should be clearly and easy to communicate for no matter really who looks at that document. So that, for instance, people can highlight an issue using the colour coordination rag rating, whatever you'd like to deem it as, but then they can come back and ask those questions, because obviously part of the council's mandate must be part of the transparency which the coalition is going for, that people can ask questions based on these documents and that we can come back with really good answers. I understand the language has to be of a certain level that we can potentially translate, but for them to acknowledge there's a question in the first place, there has to be some level of understanding in that documentation at all levels, surely.
Yeah, no,
completely.
Because I completely understand. I will have a look at the colour coding. I must admit, it's not my personal favourite, to be honest. So we certainly will have a look at that. I certainly think we can come up with something that's a bit more contrast between the various options to make it clearer where we're coming. So completely take the point on board on that.
Love, that's brilliant. Thanks very much for that, Matt. Right, so we now move on. We've got 5 recommendations on the report. I propose to take them on block, otherwise they don't make that much sense, really. So do I have a proposer? Councillor Richard Palmer, thank you. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Worcester, thank you. So I won't read them out, but the 5 recommendations on the report, all those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed, members. So let me bring that down to the next area. Oh, where am I? Oh. So agenda item 6, the Audit Committee annual report. Obviously, as Kathy's not here, we've got Mark to present this report to us. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Yes, agenda item 6 on pages 145 to 154 of your agenda pack is the Audit Committee's annual report for 22-23. It is considered best practice for this committee to produce an annual report which looks back at the previous year to demonstrate how it has discharged its duties. And this report provides assurance to the council that important internal control, governance and risk management issues are being monitored and addressed by the committee. Some of the things that this report set out are the purpose of the committee and the SIPA guidance to support this, attendance by both members and officers at meetings, the different reports that have come to the committee and how member discussion relating to these reports provide the sources of assurance that are necessary to demonstrate the committee has appropriately fulfilled its duties. Also attached to this report on page 154 is the committee's terms of reference. The committee is asked to agree this report, which will be presented to full council by the chairman. I should add that the chairman has had an input into the report with its author, Catherine Woodward, the head of Mid-Kent Internal Audit. As I say, the report is a look back at the work of the committee. I'm afraid I'm not the report author, but I'd be happy to try and field any questions or take any questions back to Catherine so we can provide a response later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Members, any comments, questions? Okay, well, Rich, sorry, I keep forgetting to look up at the screen. I keep expecting you to be sitting by your nameplate.
Sorry, I'm not there, and sorry that I've only got one tiny thing, and it's another pedantic typo spot. At the bottom of page 150, which is page 3 of the report, the 4th date of the Audit Committee meeting is listed as 10th of March 2021, and I'm guessing it's supposed to be 30th of Jan 2023. That's all.
Yeah, you're indeed correct, Rich. Thank you. Just a quick comment from me. Whilst the report is issued in my name, and Kathy's basically made the statement that I've agreed on, under chairman's statement. I have to acknowledge Councillor Derek Carnell, who was the chairman for most of the previous year, 2022 to 23. Well, pretty much all of that year, actually. Unfortunately, obviously, Derek can't be here. He's still recovering from his car accident a few days or a week or so ago. But I'd just like it a record made. My thanks to Councillor Carnell for his sterling chairmanship of this committee during my mayoral year. Thank you very much. Indeed, I'd like to thank all members of the committee for their diligence and attendance at the meetings. We have 2 recommendations, that the Audit Committee report for 2023 Appendix 1 is agreed, and that the chairman of the audit report presents the report to full council to demonstrate how the committee has discharged its duties. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Chris Palmer, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Null, thank you. So all those in favour of the two recommendations? That is unanimous from the members that are present in the chamber. Lovely. Okay. So, well, that is it, members. That is the committee meeting for this evening. So I close the meeting at 19:21 hours. Thank you very much for your attention.